Monaco sells a fantasy the rest of the world can only rent. Superyachts bobbing like polished toys, baccarat tables whispering promises, and jewellery boutiques displaying pieces worth more than small nations' budgets. It's a place where wealth feels like oxygen, everywhere, effortless and taken for granted. But there was one summer when that illusion cracked. All it took was a woman with impeccable poise, a designer dress, and a talent for slipping past the kind of security that assumes elegance equals innocence. What unfolded wasn't a smash and grab or a getaway fit for a paperback thriller. It was something quieter, smarter, and infinitely more humiliating for Monaco's elite. Their crown jewel, quite literally, vanished in the span of a polite conversation. On today's episode of Old Money Allure, we revisit the moment Monaco discovered that its most dazzling diamond could be taken by a thief who never broke a sweat. While Nixon signed resignation papers and Beverly Johnson broke Vogue's colour barrier on August 9, 1974, Doris Marie Payne prepared to execute the jewellery heist that would crown her 6-decade criminal career. Place du Casino sparkled in Monaco's Mediterranean sun as the 43-year-old woman approached Cartier's boutique, her target already selected. A 10.5-carat round diamond ring worth $550,000. That ring represented 11 times the median American house price of $48,000. Wealth beyond most families' lifetime accumulation compressed into platinum and carbon. Today's value reaches $3.5 million. But in 1974, $500,000 meant escaping poverty forever, meant power, meant everything Doris had been denied. American jewellery stores had become impossible territory for her. The Jewelers Security Alliance circulated her photograph nationwide, warning about an African-American woman who stole through psychological manipulation alone. Her FBI file stretched 6 feet long by 1974, documenting interstate thefts, international fence connections, and 2 decades of evading federal agents who knew her methods but couldn't catch her. John J. Kennedy, the Jewelers Security Alliance president, called her, by far, the most long-lasting jewellery criminal we have ever had the opportunity to know. Grudging respect from her primary adversary, Scotland Yard kept dossiers, Interpol tracked her movements, and jewellery stores from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia posted her photograph in back offices like wanted posters. Monaco promised virgin hunting grounds, concentrated wealth beyond American imagination, minimal coordination between European and US law enforcement, and black markets where diamonds make their first stop. The 2-square-kilometre principality packed more billionaires per block than anywhere on Earth, their jewellery stores holding inventory to match their clientele's bottomless accounts. Cartier had dressed royalty since 1847, crafting King Edward VII's coronation jewels and Grace Kelly's engagement ring for her fairy tale marriage to Prince Rainier. Corporate chaos provided cover. Joseph Canouille and Robert Hock had purchased Cartier Paris in 1972, while the company simultaneously repurchased its London operations, creating organisational blind spots. Security protocols wavered during restructuring, headquarters focused on mergers, while local managers operated without usual oversight, their attention divided between balance sheets and display cases. Doris checked into Hôtel de Paris that morning, 150 metres from Cartier's front door, close enough to walk, far enough to disappear. The boutique sat between Casino de Monte Carlo and her hotel, the Golden Triangle, where Europe's aristocracy gambled away fortunes and bought diamonds to console themselves. She would steal the ring successfully, but authorities would detain her at Nice airport, launching 9 months of cat and mouse that would test her ingenuity. Hidden in her girdle hem, sewn with borrowed needle and thread, the diamond would travel through body searches, hotel detention, and international scrutiny. When she finally reached New York, the fence networks would pay $545,000, nearly full value for a stone that started in African mines and ended financing a black woman's freedom. Monaco made Doris Payne's reputation international, but first she had to survive the theft, the arrest, and 9 months of hiding a diamond from people determined to find it. Slab Fork, West Virginia, October 10th, 1930. Coal dust settled on everything in the segregated mining town where Doris Marie Payne took her first breath. Her father David descended daily into darkness, emerging covered in black powder and fury that he unleashed on Clemmy Gilbert Payne with his fists. Small Doris absorbed each blow her mother endured, each cowering moment, each surrender to male violence. Lessons in what she refused to become. The transformation began at Mr. Benjamin's store, where the Jewish shopkeeper had been showing young Doris watches, treating her like a customer worth serving. A white woman entered and Doris instantly became invisible. Mr. Benjamin's warmth evaporated. His attention snapped to whiteness, leaving watches scattered on the counter. The moment crystallized into revelation. She could exist in plain sight, yet remain unseen, could exploit the blindness that racism created in those who thought themselves superior. Mr. Benjamin had taught her, without meaning to, that prejudice created exploitable gaps in attention, spaces where a clever girl could operate undetected. 16 years old, she stole her first diamond, sold it immediately, and handed the money to her mother for escape from David's violence. Guilt consumed her that night in 1946, but pragmatism won by morning. The diamond buyer didn't ask questions, and liberation required funding. Pittsburgh, 1952. 23-year-old Doris walked out wearing a $20,000 ring, spent the night in a Greyhound bathroom, paralyzed by conscience. Morning brought accidental profit. Intending to return the ring, she entered the wrong store, a resale shop that offered $7,500 cash. The die was cast. Legitimate work for black women in the 50s meant domestic service or factory labour, while one stolen ring earned more than years of honest wages. She studied human psychology with scientific precision, learning that 5 items on a counter exceeded most people's ability to track individual pieces. Appearance became weaponry. Designer clothes whispered authenticity. Expensive handbags suggested belonging. Wedding rings implied protection and respectability. Her technique involved drowning salespeople in conversation, elaborate stories about husbands, sisters-in-law, anniversaries, while hands moved between rings, creating confusion through words. "I had to practice making it their fault," she explained. Not lying to them, but creating conditions where they'd lie to themselves about losing inventory. An Israeli lover called Babe entered her life in 1957, providing fence connections and legal protection through Cleveland's underworld networks. His 1968 death from botched cosmetic surgery left Doris exposed, operating solo without safety nets in an increasingly dangerous profession. American jewelry stores had learned her face, her methods, her patterns. The Jewelers Security Alliance made her their most wanted, her photograph plastered in every major store. By 1974, operating domestically meant inevitable capture, but Europe beckoned with fresh territories where her face meant nothing, her reputation hadn't travelled. Monaco would prove the perfect testing ground for her international ambitions. She just had to walk into Cartier and walk out richer than most people's dreams. August 9th bloomed hot in Nice as Doris Payne's plane touched down, her arrival timed for maximum media distraction, Nixon resigning, Beverly Johnson making history. When I got off the airplane in Nice, France, I knew I didn't have to worry about the police at the airport because of the news focus that day, she calculated correctly. 18 kilometres of coastal road connected Nice to Monaco, her taxi winding through Mediterranean wealth toward the 2-square-kilometre principality where money had its own citizenship. Hôtel de Paris welcomed her with the practised indifference reserved for wealthy guests. No questions about the well-dressed black woman booking a suite, paying cash. She knew the walk to Cartier measured exactly 150 metres, had mapped it from her window, timed it that morning while boutiques opened their doors. Mid-afternoon struck the perfect balance, post-lunch lethargy among staff, pre-closing urgency, creating pressure to make sales, tea breaks, disrupting normal coverage. A female shopkeeper prepared to lock up for her break when Doris arrived, deploying 60 years of practiced charm to slip inside at the worst possible moment. The Belle Epoque interior gleamed with crystal chandeliers and mahogany cases, but Doris faced an unexpected problem. She was completely alone with the staff. Empty stores meant concentrated attention, every movement tracked, every gesture observed, the opposite of the crowded confusion she preferred to create. Fortune shifted when a male salesperson emerged with ring trays, then vanished to fetch more inventory from the vault, leaving her momentarily unobserved. An American hippie wandered in, the same long-haired man she'd noticed at her hotel, providing the exact distraction her plan required. The salesman pivoted to greet this new arrival, his body turning away from Doris, his attention splitting between two customers, geometry suddenly favouring the thief. I watched every move she made and every move he made, waiting for the gap when neither of their eyes were on me or on the tray, she remembered with predator's clarity. The moment arrived, both staff members focused elsewhere, the 10.5-carat diamond ring exposed on velvet, her hand moving with practiced speed. She slipped on the largest rock, $550,000 sliding onto her finger, as naturally as costume jewellery, weight and fire hidden by casual motion. The salesman returned, noticed something missing but assumed his colleague had removed it, the confusion Doris had spent decades learning to create. "Oh, my driver is here and there is more shopping to be done. I'll come for a piece tomorrow," she announced with perfect nonchalance. Walking out required discipline, normal pace, relaxed shoulders, the projection of a woman who belonged anywhere money lived, including leaving Cartier wearing their inventory. But 3 mistakes had already doomed her escape. Operating with minimal crowd cover, wearing the same identifiable outfit, and choosing to wait at Nice airport. Air France workers, not police, would spot her at the airport. Civilian employees who recognized her from Cartier's hasty description, her outfit unchanged from the crime. She could have resisted, demanded authority, created scenes, but the stolen ring on her finger made compliance the only option that avoided immediate discovery. Monaco police took custody of a woman they knew had stolen but couldn't prove it. Doris Payne had the ring somewhere. But where? The Principality lacked women's detention facilities in 1974, forcing authorities to improvise with a hotel room and rotating female guards. Daily searches produced nothing. They stripped her, examined every inch of clothing, dismantled her luggage. Yet the 10.5-carat diamond remained invisible. Initially, she'd slipped the ring into her mouth during arrest, her oral cavity becoming a temporary safe that somehow survived initial examinations. Days passed before the crucial moment, feeling discovery approaching during one aggressive search. She faked a violent sneeze that expelled the ring into tissues. Guards recoiled from the mucus-covered papers, their disgust overcoming thoroughness. They'd search body cavities, but drew the line at examining used tissues. The ring needed better concealment for long-term survival, so Doris requested innocent items, nail clippers for grooming, needle and thread for a torn hem. Her female guard saw no threat in these mundane objects, delivering them without realizing she'd just provided tools for the ultimate concealment. Working carefully with the clippers, Doris separated the massive diamond from its platinum setting, reducing evidence to its essential element, the stone itself. The mounting went out her window into the Mediterranean, sinking forever beyond recovery, eliminating the most identifiable evidence of the theft. Thread and needle transformed her girdle into a hiding place, the diamond sewn directly into the hem where no search would think to probe. "I wore my girdle day and night, even when it was wet from washing," she revealed years later, describing 9 months of constant vigilance. Authorities faced an impossible situation: absolute certainty of guilt without the physical evidence required for prosecution under Monaco's legal system. The standoff stretched through seasons, Doris waiting in her hotel prison, while investigators grew increasingly frustrated by their inability to find what they knew existed. 9 months after the theft, habeas corpus principles forced their hand. Without evidence, indefinite detention became illegal, even in Monaco's permissive system. They released her knowing she was guilty, knowing she had the diamond, knowing they'd been outsmarted by a woman they'd searched hundreds of times. Doris left Monaco carrying $550,000 in her underwear, the diamond that had survived every search, sewn into fabric. New York's fence networks paid $545,000 for the stone. Authentication was easy when you had Cartier's finest, provenance irrelevant to black market buyers. 9 months of detention had tested her resolve, but Doris Payne emerged victorious, richer, and ready to plunder Europe's finest jewellery houses. But first, she would celebrate with a continental tour that would net another $1 million in 4 days across 4 cities: London, Paris, Rome, and Zurich. Liberation from Monaco launched Doris Payne into her most audacious period. September 1975 brought a 4-city European rampage worth nearly $1 million. London's Garrard and Company, jewellers to British monarchy since Queen Victoria, lost an emerald ring to her late afternoon precision when staff attention fragmented. 2 hours later in Paris, Van Cleef & Arpels surrendered a $55,000 watch after she invited another customer to try pieces simultaneously, splitting focus. Rome's Bulgari overwhelmed her with choices, trays scattered across tables, making their abundance their weakness as she pocketed a yellow diamond ring. 4 days, 4 cities, 3 pieces worth approximately $1 million in 1975 currency, $4 million today, stuffed casually in her purse. The European triumph should have been her crescendo, but age and emotion conspired to create her first catastrophic error in October 1980. Approaching 50 in Zurich, she broke her iron rule against alcohol. Champagne at a rooftop bar led to blackout theft at a Rolex boutique. Swiss police arrested her at a Davos nightclub where, still drunk, she'd given the coat check her real name instead of any of her dozen aliases. Placed on a train to Geneva with one escort, Doris jumped off during a water stop, running through cornfields with torn pantyhose and her first hangover. She discovered the stolen Rolex in her purse with no memory of taking it, finally understanding that age might be defeating her legendary control. "Maybe I'm too old for this business," she admitted to herself, but addiction to the thrill would drive her forward for another 37 years. 2010 in San Diego, 80 years old, stealing an $8,900 ring from Macy's, caught on cameras that didn't exist in her prime. 2013 in Palm Desert, 83 years old, a $22,500 diamond ring, released early due to California's prison overcrowding. 2015 in Atlanta, 85 years old, security footage showing her pocket $690 Christian Dior earrings, the targets shrinking with her circumstances. 2017 at Walmart, 86 years old, arrested for stealing $86.22 in groceries while wearing a court-ordered ankle monitor. Her lawyer, Drew Findling, captured the tragedy. "We're talking about what an 86-year-old woman needs to survive on a day-to-day basis: food supplies and medical supplies." The 2013 documentary The Life and Crimes of Doris Payne let her speak directly. "There's never been a day that I went to steal that I did not get what I went to do." Asked about regrets, she was diamond hard in her defiance. "I don't have any regrets about stealing jewellery. I regret getting caught." She positioned her crimes as racial justice, redistributing wealth from industries built on African exploitation, but also confessed to pure addiction. "Stealing jewellery, it was just exciting. It also became a social outlet for me. That was my everything," she admitted with characteristic honesty. Producer Unetta Boone saw deeper truth. "I think Doris really thinks she's an actress, playing the part of Doris Payne, never revealing who existed beneath the performance. From Slab Forks coal dust to Monaco's diamonds, from Cartier to Walmart, Doris Payne authored her own legend, A woman who took what America never meant to give, who transformed discrimination into opportunity, who wore her crimes like the jewels she stole, brilliant and unrepentant until the end. And now we'd like to see you in the comments. Before this video, had you heard of Doris Payne's story? We look forward to hearing your personal experience below. And thanks for joining us for another episode of Old Money Allure.